This is an Inbound Logistics AI presentation. Now join our virtual hosts, Jane and John, for a deep dive into today's topic, freight bill audit and payment.
Hey everyone, you know that report you sent over about freight audit and payment? The freight bill audit and payment providers solve the case.
Yeah.
Well, get ready to dive into the future of shipping because things are changing. We're not just talking about catching invoice errors anymore.
It's true. This report shows a big shift in how companies are using freight audit and payment FBAP for short to really step up their supply chain game.
Yeah. It's almost like FBAP is moving from like the back office to the boardroom, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it, right? FBAP used to be all about, that feeling, finding those discrepancies on freight bills, making sure you weren't overpaying.
Yeah.
Important, but not exactly, like strategic, right?
Right.
But now it's this powerful tool for cost savings, optimizing your entire supply chain.
Okay, so how does that actually work? Like, what's changed?
Oh, technology is a big factor, I'd say. We're talking, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all that being used to analyze shipping data. And you find these hidden trends and insights that humans would totally miss.
So you're saying they've got like algorithms doing the heavy lifting now instead of like someone manually checking every invoice?
Yeah.
These systems are smart enough to spot problems, maybe even opportunities on their own.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
In fact, the report even talks about this company, Intelligent Audit, using deep learning models to detect potential fraud.
Oh, wow.
They found over $1 million in fraudulent activity for a global eyewear manufacturer.
$1 million just by looking at the data.
Just by analyzing the shipping data.
That's incredible. But okay, let's say you're not some like global eyewear company shipping millions of products. How does this apply to, a regular business?
Oh, that's a great question. And it gets to why this whole data-driven decision-making thing is so important. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not dealing with huge volumes, these technologies can still be a game changer. Imagine a system that flags unusual shipping costs for you, like in real time.
Yeah.
And tells you why they're happening. That's something any business, any size can benefit from.
Oh, for sure. So instead of just reacting to problems after they happen, you're saying these systems can actually help you like prevent them in the first place.
Proactive.
Yeah.
Anticipating those issues before they hit your bottom line.
Okay.
It's like having a crystal ball, but for your supply chain.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. But let's get into some of this tech a little more. The report mentioned AI, but it also talked about TMS, right?
Yeah.
Transportation Management Systems.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, TMS, that sounds a bit intimidating.
It sounds like a mouthful, for sure.
Can you break that down?
Of course. Think of a TMS like the command center for all your shipping. It helps manage everything, finding the best routes, the best rates, tracking shipments, all in real time even, like optimizing loading, your delivery schedules.
So it's like having a one-stop shop for all your shipping needs.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really cool. A lot of these FBAP providers are integrating these TMS solutions like right into their platform. So you've got this single view, everything all together.
Okay, so instead of having like separate systems for, like you said, auditing invoices and then managing all the shipments, you can just do it all in one place.
You got it. And it makes a huge difference. In fact, the report even mentioned this company, CTSI Global. They helped this car manufacturer, and they went from, get this, 25 separate systems, like entities, down to one unified system.
Not 5 to 1.
Yeah. Using CTSI Global's Honeybee TMS, which is, pretty impressive.
That's a game changer. But, okay, with all this talk about, automation, algorithms, where does the, human element fit into all of this? Are we all going to be replaced by robots soon?
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
And it's something a lot of people are, thinking about and asking. Well, technology is playing a much bigger role now, definitely human expertise.
Wow.
You can't replace it, especially when you're talking about building relationships, understanding those complex contracts, and just navigating, the world of logistics, which is always changing.
So it's about finding that, sweet spot where the tech and that human expertise work together.
Exactly. You want a provider that has cutting-edge technology for sure, but also a team of experienced logistics pros who can give you those insights. That consulting, you need both. That's something the report really drove home, this idea of partnership.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You need that human touch, right, to deal with all the ins and outs of shipping, even with all the cool technology.
Exactly. And speaking of complexities, one thing the report really highlights is how important it is for these FBAP providers to have a global reach, with like supply chains going all over the world these days.
Right.
It's not enough to just like have a presence here.
Right, because shipping internationally, I mean, that just adds like a whole other level,
That's
right?
for sure.
Different rules, currencies, languages. I mean, it can be a real mess.
Yeah, tell me about it. That's why you need a provider who really gets all those little details, someone who can like process invoices in different currencies, deal with those local customs regulations, even just talk to your vendors in different languages, right?
It's not just about like having an office in another country. It's about having people there on the ground who really know how things work there.
Absolutely. The report actually had this great example, this company, Envision Global.
Yeah.
They're in like tons of countries. Their staff speaks, get this, over 25 languages.
Wow.
And they can process invoices in like, I think almost any currency.
That's impressive.
That's the kind of like expertise we're talking about.
Yeah. But with all this talk about, technology, global reach, all this sensitive data flying around, it makes you think about security. Like, how do these FBAP providers make sure all that information is like actually safe?
That is a really important question.
Yeah.
Because cybersecurity, I mean, that's more important now than ever, right?
What?
Especially when we're talking about freight audit and payment, where you got, financial stuff, confidential business data.
So what are these companies doing to like stay one step ahead?
Well, first of all, they got to have like really strong security measures in place. Things like data encryption, that multi-factor authentication.
Right.
And they need those regular security checks.
Mm. So it's not just about having like a strong firewall, but it's about actually having those, like you said, proactive like protocols in place.
Exactly. They've got to be watching their systems all the time too, for anything that looks, suspicious.
Yeah.
And if something does happen, they better have a plan, right?
Because let's be real, it's not a matter of if there's going to be some kind of cyber attack. It's a matter of when.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. And it's not just about protecting the data from like hackers either.
Right.
It's about making sure it's being used the right way, ethically.
That's a good point, because we talk a lot about the benefits, right? Using data to make shipping better.
Right.
But we've got to think about the privacy stuff too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's one area where we're seeing more and more rules. As those data privacy laws get tougher, FBAP providers are going to have to like keep up.
So it's like this balancing act almost, right? Using data to be more efficient, to innovate, but also making sure you respect everyone's privacy and doing things the right way.
Yeah, exactly. It can be a lot to handle. That's why, if you're a shipper, you've got to be talking to these providers directly.
And asking those like tough questions up front.
Exactly.
Like, what's your security like? What happens if there's a breach? What's your stance on data privacy? That kind of thing.
Exactly. You want a provider who's going to, be upfront about everything. Mm-hmm. And you want them to be committed to doing things right ethically.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked a lot about how FBAP is like changing the tech, the global reach, security, all that. But let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. Like, how is all this actually helping shippers with real-world problems? Can you give some like concrete examples?
Absolutely. One area where we're seeing a huge difference is in spend management. Remember, we were talking about AI, machine learning, all that being used to find those cost-saving opportunities.
Yeah, like having this like digital detective on your team, finding those hidden savings in your shipping budget.
Exactly. And it's not just about finding a little extra savings here and there. It's about giving you like the bigger picture so you can make smarter choices about your transportation spend overall.
So it's about more than just like, oh, let's cut costs. It's understanding where your money's actually going and then using that like information to make the whole shipping process better.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Think about it. You're probably already, keeping track of your shipping costs.
Yeah.
But are you really like digging into it?
Yeah.
To understand why those numbers are what they are? That's where, these FBAP providers with their fancy analytics, that's where they shine.
So can you give us an example? How does it actually work, in the real world?
Absolutely. There's this case study in the report. It's about a plumbing supply company. Mm-hmm. They partnered with this company, ARTC Logistics, and they were able to cut their freight costs by, get this, 30%.
30%.
Just by like changing up their vendor routing.
Okay, hold on. Vendor routing, what does that even mean?
Oh, yeah, good question.
Yeah.
So basically, it's figuring out the absolute best way to get those goods, from your suppliers to your warehouses, your distribution centers.
Okay.
And in this case, ARTC Logistics, they looked at all the manufacturers' shipping data. And they realized they were using all these different carriers, all these routes, and a lot of them weren't very efficient.
So they were just like all over the place.
Yeah. So by optimizing the vendor routing, they were able to use fewer carriers, get better rates, and save a bunch of money.
So it's like streamlining the whole process.
Exactly. And that's just one example. We're seeing FBAP providers help shippers with everything. Carrier selection, finding the right shipping methods, warehouse stuff, even that last mile delivery.
So it's really about looking at the whole thing, the entire supply chain, and just like finding those spots where you can be more efficient and save money, of course.
You got it. And that's why, you got to think of your FBAP provider as a partner, not just someone you're buying something from.
Right.
You want someone who understands what you're trying to do, someone who wants to see you succeed,
That makes a lot of sense. So someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, this all sounds great, but where do I even start? Like, what would you tell them?
That is a great question. I think the first thing is to just take a look at how you're handling freight audit and payment right now. Like, what's not working? What are your biggest headaches? And really, what are you hoping to achieve?
You got to know what you want before you start shopping around.
Exactly. Once you've got a good handle on what you need, then you can start exploring all those different providers. See who fits,
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
Ask away.
This is a big decision.
Yeah.
You deserve a provider who gets you and your business.
Absolutely. Find someone who's upfront with you, who communicates well, and who's in it for the long haul. And, it's not just about the tech, right? It's about the people too.
Yeah. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. I think we all have a much better understanding now of how FBAP is really changing the game.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. The future of shipping is here, and it's all about data and finding the right partners.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Thank you, Jane and John, for that excellent briefing on freight bill audit and payment. For more great podcasts, go to inboundlogistics.com/podcasts.